After 40 weeks of intense training, the Illinois State Police added new officers to its ranks today. 37 new state troopers were surrounded by family and friends as they took their oath. Following graduation, troopers will return to their districts across the state of Illinois. ISP Director Leo Schmitz spoke to graduates about the value of their service to the state of Illinois.
Choosing to become a police officer, you are committing yourself to protect our citizens and uphold the laws for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're going to learn that really quick.
And their service goes beyond what they'll do in uniform. During their time in training, the cadet class raised over $16,000 for the Illinois State Police Memorial.
Now, Rounders' proposed budget cuts are making mayors happy. We're keeping you connected to the Capitol. Illinois mayors gathered there to fight a 50% reduction in funding to local governments. Decatur's mayor says even though the cuts will hurt, it is time to worry about the best interest of the state.
It's going to cost some jobs, I believe. It usually does when you make cuts like this. Some services, all of which I don't want to do. But if we have to for a short time for the fact to get this mess straightened out, I think that's what's going to have to happen.
If accepted, the cuts could go into effect July 1st.
Illinois autism programs are feeling the pain from Governor Rauner's budget cuts. Service providers started laying off staff and cutting services this month. TAP officials met with lawmakers to talk about the future of the program. If funds aren't restored, all services will end.
With the loss of TAP funds, especially now during this last part of FY15, and as we look forward into 16, there will be a number of services that we will have to either limit or we will literally have to close down.
The TAP network provides services to families affected by autism, as well as training for educators and providers.
A new poll says Illinois voters could be warming up to the idea of charter public schools, where classroom connection. The survey showed 75% of registered voters support the idea. The Illinois network of charter schools released the results today. A Decatur principal says these schools are the future of quality education for all.
The charter movement has brought innovative and creativity to one of the only professions in my mind that has struggled to change with the times. Education is the cornerstone of our society.
Emotional needs.
The independent survey polled 600 registered voters from across the state. Participants were from diverse racial and political backgrounds.
The new chairman of the State Board of Education took his seat at the head of the class this week. Former Senator James Meeks says there are challenges, and his biggest concern is securing enough funding during session. Meeks says it'll be a tough sell when lawmakers are looking to make cuts from education, but he believes that it holds the key to our kids' future.
We have to figure out a way to increase per pupil spending, and that is going to be the most, how do we get money and funds to the kids who need it most? That's going to be the most critical.
Meeks says education is a bipartisan issue, and he wants to work with the new governor and lawmakers from both sides of the aisles to get things.
Their pets, but it could be caused to long-term damage.
Now, a bill would protect pets and their voices. WCIA3's Adrienne Crossley is keeping us connected to the Capitol.
It's a part of nature. Dogs bark and cats meow. But what happens when those instinctual behaviors are taken away?
They still do have a little bit of noise that they make, but it's very hoarse, kind of like a person with laryngitis.
Some pet owners mute their pets for convenience. The procedure is called devocalization. Sarah Moore from the Animal Protective League says the surgery is rarely performed for medical reasons.
Pet owners might do it largely for behavioral reasons.
For pet owners receiving complaints from neighbors, surgery seems like an easy fix. However, the procedure could have dangerous side effects.
A pretty common occurrence is scarring of the vocal tissue, which can cause problems with eating and breathing.
A proposed bill would make it illegal for owners to devocalize their pet for non-medical reasons. Representative Christine Winger says protecting animals is a passion of hers.
To
debark a dog, may leave that dog with no measures of how to protect itself.
Though surgery sounds like the best solution,
The dog may turn to different behaviors, possibly destructive behaviors at home, and create more of a hassle for the pet owner.
advocates say this bill is the cat's meow. Adrienne Crossley, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
Violators would face up to a $2,500 fine and up to 5 years in prison.
Well, I'll tell you what, this weather is the cat's meow.
It means the end of Black History Month. It's a time to learn about so many who have made an impact on the world, and now some lawmakers are saying those lessons shouldn't stop once March begins.
These students, white, black, Indian, Mexican, they don't know anything about Black history.
Aldine Pipus organized this Black History event at Grant Middle School. She says too often history classes overlook the accomplishments of African Americans.
Our history has been totally wiped out, just about totally wiped out of the history books.
A new bill would require Illinois schools to teach Black history year-round. Students agree people need to be conscious of the struggles and successes of blacks in the U.S.
If it wasn't for their accomplishment back then, we wouldn't have what we have today.
These courses would be mandatory for K-12 schools and community colleges.
Title of the film, Do the Right Thing. What is the right thing to do?
UIS professor Kamau Kamayo says Black history should be taught at every level, including universities.
People who learn about diverse cultures are better of accepting of a diversity when they have a chance to see it.
He says illustrating different perspectives helps create a more just society. Adrienne Crossley, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
The bill requires students to successfully complete courses prior to their 8th grade and high school graduations. Life as one gender, but being buried as another. That's reality for some people in Illinois. WCIA 3's Adrienne Crossley tells us how a new bill is allowing people to be who they are in life and in death.
Who would want to spend eternity as someone other than who they truly believed that they were?
What if after death someone was allowed to change everything about you, from your name to your appearance? That's a risk people who are transgender take once they pass away. Tracy McCaverty feels the final wishes of transgender people should be honored even if their families object.
Family may have good intentions and they may want to protect their own personal privacy or considerations about not having people know the truth.
Right now, Illinois law does not explicitly deny or grant individuals the right to claim a specific gender in their will. A new bill would change that.
It gives the transgender person peace of mind. Then, in the event of their death, it prevents family squabbling from making any difference.
One lawmaker hopes that tightening up the law will help transgender men and women maintain their identity even in death.
That it's important that we positively assert the rights of transgender individuals to define how they want their remains to be disposed of.
Defining gender rights not only in life, but in death. In Springfield, Adrienne Crossley, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
And that bill would not require people to legally or medically change their sex to be recognized as their chosen gender.
The number of lobbyists in the state is at its highest point in years, and now they're waiting to see what the new governor means for their cause. WCIA 3's Adrienne Crossley tells us how Bruce Rauner affects the power of persuasion.
A new governor means a shift in power and a new level of unpredictability.
There's a lot at stake this session, and I think a lot of people want to make sure their voice is heard.
The change has pushed lobbying to its highest level in 5 years. Mark Beal is one of those lobbyists. He has spent over 20 years lobbying for the Chemical Industry Council of Illinois.
More than anything, advocate on my members' behalf to make sure that their interests are looked out for and protected.
More than 1,700 groups lobbied the Capitol in 2011. 5 years later, the number has grown to almost 2,000.
And I think a lot of that really has to do with the uncertainty.
With a Republican governor in office, special interest groups are spending more on Republican lawmakers than on Democrats. Experts say that's not unusual.
All of a sudden it becomes more important to have connections with Republican legislators and also the leaders.
Redfield says lobbying efforts will continue to grow slowly as people become comfortable with the new administration. Adrienne Crossley, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
It's been 60 years since Brown versus the Board of Education, but some say not enough has changed in education when it comes to race in public schools. WCIA 3's Adrienne Crossley tells us how Illinois is still seeking change.
We have to look at systems and policies and programs and institutions.
Terrence Roberts is a member of the historic Little Rock Nine. In 1957, 9 black students climbed the steps of Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, with the protection of the U.S. Army. They challenged the segregation of public schools head on.
You know, and when we do that, we will discover that this country was predicated upon principles of racism from the start.
He says the change hasn't manifested in the way he'd hoped.
We have not really altered our thinking. We've changed the rhetoric, but the system remains in place.
State Senator Andy Manar says the economic gap between white and black students has created many schools that are separate and unequal.
We have very much a system today in Illinois that provides for unequal opportunity based on zip code, based on race, based on poverty.
In Illinois, students of color receive 20% less funding per pupil than whites. In 2014, blacks scored 30% lower than whites on statewide exams.
The inequality and the unfairness that is embedded in our system today is hardwired into the law.
Manar proposed a bill to make the school funding formula more equal. The bill made it out of a Senate committee but hasn't been called for a vote. He says it's hard to tell when the change will come. In Springfield, Adrienne Crossley, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
Members of the Little Rock Nine received the Lincoln Leadership Award. It was for their dedication to equality earlier this week.